Here we go.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Lakeland Rotary Club. We have a great program for you today, so thank you for coming out, and all of those on Zoom, thank you for being here. And at this time, I'd like to call John Fullerton for our invocation, Pledge of Allegiance, and reciting of the four-way test.
I realize that some of you like this cold weather that we're having and would like for more of this cold weather to continue, but as a Christian comedian once said, I ain't praying for that. Will you pray with me? Eternal God, we give you thanks for this day that you have given to us and the privilege of gathering freely here in this place. You know, Jesus once said that he came to serve and not to be served. And so it is for all of us, of all backgrounds and all faith traditions and all financial statuses and all careers. We in Rotary are here to serve, not to be served. And so may Lakeland and indeed the whole world benefit from that disposition of our hearts. We pray for Dr. Parish today as he brings a message to us. In anxious financial times, let him bring a word of hope and encouragement. And bless him and his family, and bless the work to which he is called and those who benefit from his wisdom. And bless our time together. Bless this club and our leaders. Bless this food and bless each other who are gathered here. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Of the things that we think, say, and do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
And as you can tell, we don't have a piano player. So I was going to do a solo, but we're going to skip right over that. All right. Now for our introduction of guests and visiting Rotarians, Stephanie Colon.
Blair. Thank you. Here I have Eric Gardner. He is my husband, and he is an attorney at the Public Defender's Office. Glad you're here, Eric. And awake. And I'm delighted once again to have with me Linda Cesar. She's a project manager, worked with Roster and Commuto Enterprises, and she is also the executive director of their Foundation Directors Live. She hails from Haiti. That's fine. There you are. Hi, Jack. Jack is a visiting out-of-town Rotarian. Want to say a little hello?
I'm from Frankfort, Indiana, and the reason I'm here is because I am from Frankfort, Indiana. And I'm not ashamed to say it's because of the weather. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure being with you today.
Welcome.
Any Rotarians bring another guest? No? Okay, that's it.
Thank you, Stephanie. Happy dollars with Cody Cheek. I've got $1. I'll go first. My 16-year-old passed his driving test, so I'm thrilled about that. The bad news is I got my insurance renewal, so I only have about 50 cents. So if somebody can make change in the basket, I'd appreciate it.
If anyone here has
Somebody's
happy dollars, let me know and I'll text it into them.
Any change?
Big one because I have two announcements. I'm sorry, I don't have change, Nate. One is Pig Fest. Learning Resource Center once again has been invited to be one of the 7 nonprofit volunteer organizations to provide help and assistance at this year's Pig Fest, which is our Summit Fund, next weekend, not this weekend, but the next weekend, and we need volunteers. If you have always wanted to drive a golf cart or a shuttle for as long as somebody would ever let you drive, see me or see Mr. Dr. Loudon. Dr. Hightower is also helping with Steiner, that I hear he's at Hardy Lake camping out today, which leads me to believe that that's not where you should be on this cold day. And we also have positions for assistants to the judges. As you probably know, Pig Fest is one of the largest barbecue competitions in the country, and they hold, before the Friday and Saturday public event, they hold judges and training sessions. And so our volunteers go in and assist the judges in samples sometimes also. So, and that's inside, so that's always a fun place to be. So please see me if you can help us out. We share in the proceeds along with the 6 other nonprofits at the end of the event. Other thing is, and there are, should Linda help me put save the date cards out on the table for Learning Resource Centers for the Love of Learning. It's a little bit different this year. It's in person at 1961, as well as live streaming in your own home if you so wish. So we'd love for you to buy a ticket. There's information on the card how to do that. And also, if you would like to be a sponsor, or if you have something wonderful to donate for our online auction. Cal Arter was fabulous a couple years ago and donated a piece that we're still trying to get rid of. So if anybody needs a giant size, life size golfer for their man cave or their kitchen or their front porch to see me, I've got it.
Thank you, Pam.
What is it, Cal?
It's a statue, actually. A golfer, life size.
I'll take a look at it.
It still has a better handicap than Tom Conger.
That's great. My happy dollars today are going to the fact that I'm just incredibly excited to be hosting all of you on Thursday at International Diamond Center. So we all, it's a rare opportunity. We're all able to get together and celebrate and have a great time together and enjoy each other. So very excited to do it. And there are spots available still. I'm very excited. I'm sure they'll make another announcement about it. But thank you all very much for giving me that opportunity. And I'm incredibly proud and excited and happy to share that with you all.
Anybody else? All right. And just because we don't have a piano doesn't mean we don't have singing. That's right. Wonder what it could be.
This is going to be a little more serious today. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Rotarians stand for truth and for justice and for freedom, for peace. Let's stand in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., sing the marching song of the Civil Rights Movement, We Shall Overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome one day. Amen.
Thank you, Mike. And now for announcements. Stephanie, Vince, you guys want to come on up? And while they're on their way up, again, reminder of our next Know and Grow dates, January 31st, February 1st, and February 2nd. You can sign up online or email Josie Hill if you have any issues with that. And also next week, we will be electing our new board members. So if you want to put your name in the hat, please get that to Beth no later than tomorrow. Again, we'll be voting on that next week. All right, Stephanie?
Just a reminder, as Ryan said, Ryan and International Diamond Center are going to host us this Thursday, starting at 5:30. There are going to be lots of giveaways, a spin the wheel thing for giveaway stuff as well, gift cards, that kind of stuff, food and drink. So come check out his place. He's also got some people coming from corporate, so we really need to make him look good, y'all. So show up. February 15th will be our next event. It's going to be the Aprons Dinner. It starts at 6 p.m. It's at the Lake Marion Aprons Cooking class. I'm sorry, I said Aprons Dinner, Aprons Cooking class. The cost is $60 per person. You can sign up online on our website as well as at the back table. And we only have 48 spaces, so I hear they're kind of running out maybe, so sign up. Thank you. Wait. Okay, thank you, John.
Hey, we're here again to recruit volunteers for the Rotary Twilight 5K, the 5 Rotary clubs of Lakeland. The 5K is on February 4th, 2022. And I don't know if you Zoomers could see, this is the shirt.
Nice.
This is the shirt for the run this year. So if you don't want to run, you can walk. And we're still taking donations, and we're looking for volunteers. The way you can volunteer, anyone here at our meeting today can see me, and I can sign you up for different positions that we have, volunteer positions. And we have our own Chuck McDonald to thank for setting up the Club Runner site. If you go there and click on Rotary Twilight 5K and the area where it says sign up to volunteer, there are different positions that we need filled. If you're a person that, for instance, likes to talk a lot, we need an alternate MC announcer at the park. So please help us out, and we'll be looking for volunteers the next couple of weeks before the run, which is, again, February 4th, 2022. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, and now to introduce our program, Mr. Rick Maxey.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am very, very happy and honored to introduce a friend today, Jerry Parish, Dr. Jerry Parish, been an economist with the Florida Chamber and an outstanding
Move the mic.
Dr. Jerry Parish is currently an adjunct faculty member in the Masters of Applied Economics program at FSU, yes, and serves as the chair of the Council of Economic Advisors at the Haas Center at the University of West Florida. He was previously the chief economist and director of research for the Florida Chamber Foundation. In that 7 years, he was responsible for conducting in-depth analysis on the Florida economy and on solutions to help secure Florida's future. Dr. Parish previously was the chief economist and director of the Center for Competitive Florida at Florida Tax Watch. Prior to that, he served as the associate director of the Center for Economic Forecasting and Analysis at FSU. He has many years of experience in the private sector and management roles at International Manufacturing Company. Earned his BS in Agricultural Business and Economics from Auburn University, an MBA from Bellarmine University, and MS in Economics from the University of North Carolina at Charlotte, and a PhD in Economics from Auburn. He regularly publishes research reports and articles on the Florida economy. Please welcome Dr. Jerry Parish.
Thanks, Rick. Glad to be here with everyone today. And I want to talk about the economy. First of all, let's talk about the Dow Jones down 550 points this morning. Don't look at your 401k statements for a few days. But, and that stuff's important. But I really want to talk more about the long term of Florida, and instead of the short term. One of the things I've been able to do is really watch what's going on in the Florida economy and how we've handled this transition, pre-COVID into the perhaps relapse of COVID. And one of the questions I always get is, how are we doing compared to before COVID? And one of the things that's important to see is we've actually not recovered all of our jobs that we lost from February to April of 2020. We lost almost 1.3 million jobs. Now, when the economy opened back up, we gained a lot of those jobs back, but we still are a little over 111,000 jobs behind. Now, you can see that that's a 1.2% drop compared to the US, 2.6. So it's easy to say that Florida's doing better than the US as a whole. We're doing substantially better than a whole lot of states, but we're still not back to exactly where we were. Now, the monthly job recovery, you can see here, big drops, a couple of big gains as we open back up. And now we're running, 40 to 70,000 jobs recovered per month. And these are the monthlies. These, this will tell you if we kept on this trend, we'd be back to pre-COVID levels within a couple of months. But something's coming up that we have to think about. Every year after we get all our job numbers in, and we'll get December's here coming up a week from Friday. The Bureau of Labor Statistics goes through and revises all those numbers. So we get a preliminary number. We get those every month so we can kind of see how we're doing. But you got to remember some of the revisions at the end of the year may go up or down by 20 or 30%. They certainly went down last year. So we'll actually see, won't be until March when those numbers come out to see exactly where we are. But the good news is Florida's doing better than most of the states out there. Now, one of the things that's really prominent out there in the labor market of what's going on is people are quitting their jobs. You may have heard in the news, 4.5 million people in America quit their job last month. And this is not they already had a job transitioning, or they were laid off, or they were fired. This is they left their job. So I want to show you what Florida's quit rate looks like. Over the last couple of months ago, we hit 270,000 Floridians just quit their job. That's a big deal. That's, pretty close to 3% of the Florida labor force. And you add that up over time, when 3% quit every month, you're talking about 36% over a year's time. Now, let me tell you a couple things about those numbers. First of all, you can quit twice during that time. So it's not, 36% of everyone quit their job. Some people quit, they got another job, they didn't like it or decided something else was better for them, or just decided to lay out of the workforce for a while. But still, that is the signature of what's going on in the labor market right now. If you're a business owner or know one or live with one, you know what's going on out there. Very, very difficult to hire people right now. That's one of our biggest challenges. We would have created enough jobs to recover pre-COVID levels if we just had enough people to go to work. There's more than 500,000 open jobs in Florida right now. So it's really a supply issue is what's going on. It's a supply of labor issue is why a lot of our chain, our delivery chain of goods is going on right now. Things are hard to get, our supply chain issues, a lot of it's truck driver shortages and worker shortages as well. And, we don't know what's happened to all those people. A lot of them retired early. A lot of nurses, a lot of school teachers just decided not to go back in the labor force. Will they come back? Hey, Rick Maxey left the labor force. There's people trying to get him to come back, but I think he's holding out. I'm not sure what he's holding out for. But anyway, that's a super important thing in what's going on. Remember, Florida's growing by about 850 net new people a day right now. It was 800 last year. We're bumping back up. That's a net number. You may hear that 1,000 people are moving to Florida, every month. That's probably a good number, but some of them leave. They go to school or they get a job somewhere. On a net basis, about 850 people. And that's a big challenge. What are we going to do with them? Where are they going to live? Let's think about what the labor market or the interest rate market is right now. 30-year interest rates, a little over 3 right now. But one of the things we saw this morning, and part of the reason the Dow's down is the 10-year bond, which is something I really watch. That is a real, indicator of what's going to happen in the future. The 10 years up over 1.8, about 1.84 this morning from what I saw. And so what's happening is, we've got interest rates going up, short term, longer term. We've all heard that the Federal Reserve is going to stop buying so much paper. Remember, the Federal Reserve has about $8.7 trillion of assets on its books right now. We all know what happened during the slowdown and the COVID recession. They liquefied the economy. They've been buying paper, including mortgage-backed securities, to keep interest rates down and keep money pumped into the economy. That's what has kept things going. Let's give the Federal Reserve a lot of credit here. They've done a really good job. Now, what happens is when you pump a lot of money into the economy, guess what? Sooner or later, and we didn't know when it would happen, but it's here now, inflation happens. And so that's one of the big issues that we have to think about. So interest rates are going up. It's going to be harder for businesses, to borrow money. It's going to cost more. It's going to cost more people, more money on their housing. Remember, housing prices go up when interest rates go down. It's cheaper to afford a bigger house, so people buy bigger houses. But think about this, Florida's single family building permits, and it's the same with multifamily, have been going up, but hey, they're not near as high as they were back in 07 and 08. Think about that. All these people moving into Florida, where are they going to live? That's the big issue that we have. 850 net new people a day. Where's the infrastructure going to come from? How are we going to get them water? How are we going to get them electricity? How are we going to get sewage, plants built and those kind of things that are necessary? And, remember, Florida's pretty ecologically fragile, right? There's a big movement to have a lot of our septic tanks moved to sewers. That happens certainly in North Florida, where I'm from, to protect our springs. That's going to be a bigger and bigger issue. And as more people move in here, more houses are being built, but not as many as there were even pre-Great Recession. So that's going to be a big, big issue. That's why you're seeing the housing prices go up so much. Now, I like to show this. This is population change. You probably can't read the numbers on here, but it's a map of all the states. Over the past 10 years, between 2010 and 2020, this is our census numbers, Florida grew at the second highest number of any state in the country. Only Texas, which is bigger anyway than us, grew more. We didn't grow as much as a percentage basis. We were actually number 8. Who's growing the most? Anybody want to guess which kind of states are growing the most right now over the past few years? Western states. On a percentage basis, it's Western states. Why? People are leaving California because the taxes are too high. They sell their house at some outrageous amount of money. They move to Idaho or Utah or Arizona or somewhere like that. They bring all that money. They spend it. They may create a business. They may move their business there. That's who's growing the most on a percentage basis. Can Florida grow a lot on a percentage basis? Nah. We're the 3rd largest state in the country. The percentages always go down. And when we think about that, I've made a little plot of a graph here. You can't read the numbers, but on the top is Florida's every 10-year growth rate. And it's big. That big number in there in the 50s and 60s is a 78-point-something% growth within a 10-year period. Now, you can't grow like that when you're already at 22 million people. So Florida, actually, take a look at that. Florida had the lowest growth rate that we've had since they've been keeping census numbers, at least since 1900. But we still grew at more than twice what the U.S. did. The U.S. only grew slower during the years of the Great Depression than they did this last 10 years. So that's a big issue. Remember, Florida is aging, the U.S. is aging. We don't have the population growth that we have. And remember, for Florida, 9 out of every 10 people, that 850 net new people a day, come from another state or another country. Florida will actually go negative when it comes net, births minus deaths. We'll actually be negative here pretty soon. There'll be less births than there are deaths in this state. So we're really dependent on those people. Where are they coming from? New York, New Jersey, Ohio, name any high tax state that there is. And that's where a lot of people are coming from Florida. And they've seen what happened. I'm not political, up until recently, I've been working for a 501c3. I couldn't make any political statements at all. Now I work for a couple of universities, so I can make them if I want to, but I'm really not political. So think about what's going on here. Over the last couple of years, Florida is known for being open. We've had people move down here for that exact reason. They're moving their businesses here. So whether you like our governor or not, you have to think about that. It's been positive for the state of Florida, and it's going to continue. When we think about what's going to happen over the next, over the last 10 years, so let's think about Polk County for a second. Polk County here was number 8, grew by almost 123,000 people in that 2010 to 2020 range. That's a big number. I mean, that's a big number. And is it going to continue to grow? I think what you're going to see is absolutely yes. You guys know the lay here. You're right between Orlando and Tampa, 2 of the fastest growing areas in the country. There's no way you could stop the growth if you wanted to. It's just not going to happen. Are you and your county commissioners and the regional planners doing a great job at planning for that next few million people? You better hope so, because they're coming. And, on top of the natural growth that we would have gotten, remember, Florida's in a great position to take advantage of this post-COVID world we live in. Think about it. We got basically 2 kinds of workers now, those who can work from home and those who have to show up for work. It's not that simple. Some people still have to go into work, everyone. But let's say it's that simple, that you got those people. Who's winning the game? The people that can work from anywhere, right? Now they're demanding to work from home. It's like, well, sure, you can hire me, but you have to let me work from home. Well, how does Florida sit in that situation? It's like, wow, let's say you have to go into the office. You work in Chicago. You have to go in the office once a month for a staff meeting and to meet the new people that they've hired and train somebody and all that stuff. Wow, from most places in Florida, you can actually get a direct flight to Chicago the night before your staff meeting, roll in there, get a hotel room, show up at the office, fly back home that night, and live in Florida the other 29 or 30 days of the month, right? Florida's going to win this big. We're winning population of those people that can work from home. And remember, they're going to demand not just being able to stay at home. You're going to be, if you're employing those people, they could just as easily work from some company out of California, couldn't they? Somebody may want to pay them California wages and let them live here. So Florida has beaches, better weather, no state income tax. You can bet that 850 people a day will move up to 900, move up to maybe 950 here over the next couple of years. Employers are having to figure this out. Remember, who's running these companies? I just turned 61 last week. People my age are running these companies. What do we want? We want to see your car in the parking lot when we roll in the morning, and we want to see it there when we leave for the evening. Though people like me have had to learn some pretty hard lessons. First of all, we've learned people can be productive remotely. Hey, I was productive. I'm going to show you something I invented while I was at home for that couple of months, where nobody was bothering me and asking me to do stuff, and I could do what I wanted to. So big difference. That's the biggest change here. The changes that we have to our workforce are really going to dominate, our entire economy over the next few years. Now, when we think about the next 4 million people that are coming, Polk County is actually number 9. What does that say? 161,000 people. Now, this could happen as early as 2030, somewhere in the 2030 to 2035 range. You're talking about another 161,000 people. Are you ready for it? No. Is anybody ready for it? No. think about this. This forecast was made before COVID really kicked off too well. This comes from the University of Florida's Bureau of Economic and Business Research. And, since that happened, the COVID is actually going to change. We'll see more push into the rural counties and the smaller towns, smaller counties than we would have otherwise. Will that be good for Polk County? It may push that number even higher. Absolutely. Let's say you work in Tampa at one of the banks, you work in Orlando, you only have to go in once a week, something like that. It's going to push more people out there. I will guarantee that. Now, who's been growing? I wanted to show you where you were as far as GDP growth. GDP is a fancy economic term. You don't need to know the formula. I don't even remember what the formula is. I want you to think about value added. If you add value to something while it's in this state, that's an increase in GDP. Manufacturing, the difference in what you pay for or paid to build parts, and then that and the difference in what you sell that final good at, that's GDP. Restaurant meal, difference they pay for ingredients plus what you minus, from what you pay for that plate, that's GDP. So it's a really good sense of what the economy is doing. Out of 22 Florida MSAs, this Lakeland MSA is what it's called, but it's just Polk County. That's the same exact footprint. Grew at number 7 over the past 10 years. That's a big deal. GDP changes if Rick's got the slides. If he'll turn them into PDF and send them out to anybody that wants them, you'll be able to see all the counties around here. But you can see Polk County's doing really, really well. Now, I want to talk about another thing. I don't have a lot of time left, but I want to talk about a project that I worked with very closely with our CEO, Mark Wilson, when I was at the Florida Chamber Foundation. One of the things that I wanted to talk about, long-term economic growth. How do you grow your economy and be inclusive? And what we came up with was prosperity at every zip code. And so I'm the first person in the entire country to come up with a poverty map for every single county in the state. And so I did it for Florida. Here's what Polk County's looks like. It's a heat map, so it's darker in the areas that have higher child poverty rates, under 18 poverty rates. And I will tell you, I'm very proud that the Florida Chamber has, for the last 2 years, a poverty map for every single county in the state for the last 2 years. And we'll get some new numbers coming up in March. Well, the 2020 numbers are running a little late because of COVID. We'll get new ones. But I wanted you to know that there. And on the scorecard, you'll be able to see there's 37,124 kids living in poverty in just this county. There's 829,342 in the state of Florida. And when I was at the chamber, we adopted this goal. You could see in the middle of that tile from the Florida scorecard, it says we want to reduce child poverty to less than half by 2030. And, that's something that we can all work on. And I know what you guys are doing, helping kids get internet access and helping them, learn while they're at home during this COVID thing. I really appreciate that, because there's 2 ways to solve poverty in the long run. One of them is, helping parents get job skills and getting them in the job market, right? That's the long-term solution. If you got skills, you get paid. Hey, you've seen all the help wanted signs around here. There's absolutely plenty of opportunity with that over 500,000 open jobs in the state right now. Well, when we shut down for COVID, I told you I invented something. Literally, I got to stay at home for 2 months and work on what I wanted to. Nobody could come by my office and say, hey, Jerry, can you write a report on this? The phone didn't ring because nobody had my cell number because I didn't give it to them. And so nobody bothered me. So what I came up with is, how do we solve long-term poverty that everybody can see? So I came up with a thing called the Florida Gap Map, and you can see it on the web. It's thefloridagapmap.org. It's part of the Florida Chamber Foundation website. And so I came up with this. I wanted to show you this for Polk County. This is an interactive map. You drop down and pick out the county you want, and you lay your mouse over a zip code. And this zip code has 33805. 2,707 kids living in poverty. That's 48.3% of the kids in that zip code live in poverty. And what we've managed to do at the Florida Chamber is get people to adopt zip codes and the root causes of poverty underneath that. And we've got literally many people out there in all over the state of Florida who have adopted a county, adopted a zip code. But even more important, and something that you guys are already doing a little bit, you're attaching the education. The second way to solve long-term poverty is to help kids learn how to read. And you may say, why does a business organization care about kids reading? Well, remember, when kids are in third grade, that's typically where they go from learning to read to reading to learn. And it works this way. And I explain this to business people all the time. If that kid is comfortable in school, they're reading at grade level, they're fine, the probability they'll stay in school is super high. The probability they'll stay at a jail is super high. What do we need those kids to do? Stay in school, stay out of jail. That is long-term economic development. Help them get through school. And, so what I ask business people to do is help some kid learn how to read. That's the best thing you can do for the future of this county and the state. And there's lots of ways to do that. You can buy books for them. By the way, don't wait till they're in third grade to help, teach them to learn how to read. They're, second grade, first grade. Remember, when we spend money on development of kids, early money is better. Early money is better because fixing a problem later on is very, very difficult and very expensive. So the more we can do toward early learning, the more we can do around the state of Florida can help solve some of this poverty issue that we've got here in the state. And I want to be clear about one thing. When you put there's a lot of dots on that gap map. When you click over and look at one of the dots, I've laid my mouse over a dot, and it's a school, Clarence Elementary School. It shows the score 29. That means only 29% of their kids are reading at grade level or above. Now, I don't know this school. I just picked it at random. There's schools with lower scores in this county, schools with higher scores. But what that means is there's 57 kids in that school not reading at grade level at the third grade. And so when we broke it down to, helping businesses get involved, we said, hey, adopt a classroom. Don't adopt a whole school, just adopt a classroom. If you can help those kids learn how to read, that literally is economic development, and it's the best that you can do. Now, I have one warning. I did this to my own county commission. I showed them a school that actually had a 29% reading score. And I have, let's say he's a firebrand. That's not the word I use most of the time, but in polite company, I'll call him a firebrand county commissioner. He interrupted me and he said, Mr. Parish, he said, I tell you what, it says that school at only 29% of their kids are reading at grade level. We should stop giving them tax money and quit taxing the parents that send their kids to that school. And I've taken great pride in having jobs where they let me say anything I want to. So let me tell you, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Don't judge a school. If you look at the floridagapmap.org, do not judge a school by its reading score. You don't know if those kids showed up hungry every day, if their parents ever read to them. That is my big warning if you start to use this as far as, directing, what you guys do here in the local community. But, those two things, job skills. I know we have our Career Source Florida folks here. Thank you very much for what you guys are doing every single day out there to help Floridians get jobs and help employers find people and help them get the new employee the skills that they need to be competitive and to be a good employee in there. Now, that's long term. What am I watching right now? Well, I'm watching the stock market, but it's probably not a good idea to watch that very often. And I'll take my own advice here to not do that. But here's the three big things I'm looking for. This is the last slide I have here. Watch what the Federal Reserve and interest rates are doing. Remember, they've got all that paper on their books. They've already decided to taper, quit buying so much paper in advance of raising interest rates. We're likely to see 3 or 4 quarter point interest rate rises, and that creates a lot of issues here. It's actually good for savers, But, what happens is these long-term investments like tech companies and all that stuff get knocked down pretty hard in their values when the interest rates goes up, because the discounting of those profits to the future, they become less. Look at the infrastructure spending and what we get in Florida. That will help us with that 850 net new people a day. Watch where they spend that money. Florida is actually in really good shape with bridges nationally. Roads pretty good. Florida spends about $10 billion a year of state money on infrastructure. We kind of get penalized because the feds give the money to the people who have squandered their money, and Florida doesn't get as much. But watch what happens there. That'll be important to the future growth of Florida and how we handle the traffic. And watch the Florida legislature. I was very proud of them. I got to have lunch with one of my friends who works at the governor's office on Friday, and I thanked him. I gave the keynote at the Florida Rural Economic Development Summit. I work a lot in rural economic development. That group was hoping to get $5 million. That would be a big year for them in the legislature. The governor's budget came out at $105 million for this year. And I profusely thanked my former colleague that works there at the office. We may start to get serious about rural Florida. That's certainly going to help this region, certainly south of here as well. And that's good for everybody. Because remember, 17 Florida counties lost population between 2010 and 2020. And remember who leaves. People with opportunity are the ones that are leaving. They've got opportunity to go places. It leaves less people with a higher tax bill because the people with opportunity have left. And so COVID actually is the first positive thing we've seen for our rural counties and small areas. And, thanks, hopefully with the legislature will confirm, that part of the governor's budget, then I think Florida's in pretty good shape to come. But anyway, thanks for having me this morning. I want to make sure we have a few minutes for questions, and just say thanks for the invitation, Rick, and thanks for having me this morning. Thank y'all. Yes, sir.
The Federal Reserve anticipated doing their adjustment on interest for the point. What is your projection of where we're going with inflation? Let's say in the next, because
Will you repeat the question?
Yeah, great question. Kind of the outlook for inflation over the next 6 months is the gist of the question here. What's my outlook? First, I was the one that watched shipping prices go through the roof. A container from China used to cost about $1,300 to ship. It got to be over $13,000 earlier this year. Shortage is part of the supply chain issue. As those get resolved, inflation will come back down. But remember, I'm old enough to remember the term stagflation and all this stuff. Inflation is more persistent than it should be. We could go back to the same exact conditions before COVID, when we had almost no inflation and people were saying, well, hey, the Fed's throwing all this paper out, buying all this paper. Where's the inflation coming? We could go back to that same exact economic situations and we'd have more inflation now than we would then. Why? Because people expect inflation now. And so you're not that surprised when something goes up in price and you're willing to pay it. And it takes a long time to root it out. Remember, they had to raise interest rates to crazy amounts. We won't have to do that again this year, but we'll still see, 3 and 4% inflation probably into this time next year, and then breaking down below that after that. So still inflation, not near as high as it was over this past 12 months. It's unprecedented over the last 40 years. Great question. Yes, sir.
universal pay.
Yes. Universal pre-K. Now that's a policy question, isn't it? There's good and bad. I'm an economist, left hand, right hand. There's good things about it. First of all, like I told you, spending money early on kids is the best money. If it's properly spent, you can't just do anything crazy. But the earlier kids get in school and get socialized and in a learning environment is good for many, many kids. Not necessarily for all of them, but I tend not to vote or to talk about anything that's universal. Could we subsidize childcare maybe and not do command control? That's an option. There's a lot of options out there. And, that's a policy decision that people are going to have to make for them, for themselves and the country. I see good and bad things coming out of that. Not every kid learns at the same rate, but most kids are better off in school. Think about the kids that, their parents never read to them at home. The earlier you could get them in a preschool situation, they're probably going to be better off. So I'm not totally for it, not totally against it, but there's some opportunities there, and it's some advantages to get kids in more formal education. They get meals, they get read to, they start to learn, and they socialize with other kids. So a lot of good things that could happen with that. Good question. Yes, sir.
I don't know, venture with take stock of children and older, the two minor kids. That's the biggest bang for the buck for middle school kids going on to college. And I recommend anybody, if you're interested in becoming a mentor, talk to me. Take stock of children.
That's a great point. I know who those folks are, and they do a lot of great work around the state. Thanks. Yes, ma'am. Well, right now they're in everything, but remember, we're pretty dominated with healthcare. We've got a little older population than the U.S. We've had so much turnover in healthcare. Nurses getting burnt out and just saying, "Hey, I'm done with this." Matter of fact, I work for a manufacturing organization called Florida Makes. I'm on their board. One of the things that smart manufacturers have been doing is taking these nurses that are burnt out, working third shifts, and putting them on the manufacturing floor, typically as supervisors. Because remember, they're going around taking readings and putting them in the computers and doing analysis. Kind of the same thing they do as nurses. It's just on a process instead of a person. And so a lot of people have been taking advantage of that. There's, the big number of jobs that haven't come back are in leisure and hospitality. We're seeing a lot of those people go get some retraining, move into other organizations. But right now, I talk to business people all the time. It doesn't matter what industry you're in, you're shorthanded. You're having a hard time hiring people right now. And that's going to continue. Remember, not as many people being born. Certainly Florida is winning because we got so many people moving into the state right now. We're better off than most. But still, it is, labor costs are going up, as you know. And remember, those workers that can work from anywhere now have more market power than they've ever had. Because now even their bosses realize they can work from home. And I tried to hire a kid, one of my grad students at FSU this past summer when they graduated. And to work for me, we had lost my right-hand person up there at the Chamber Foundation. And his first question was, can I work from home? I said, man, this is the Florida Chamber. We don't work from home. You got to show up. And he said, I'm not interested. Literally. Didn't have a job, just was not interested. And so we're going to see a lot more of that as the market kind of consolidates. But you'll see continued wage pressure on employers, no doubt about it. I mean, it's a good time to be an employee right now, right? A lot of people have a lot more options than they did a couple of years ago, with no change in skills, no change in anything, just change in the market as it was. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Seems like there are a lot of people that are starting.
Yeah.
People, entrepreneurs, or disproportionate to what we got. How is that? The employment.
All right, that's a great question. If you didn't hear that, there's a lot of people starting businesses now, highest rates ever. And, how is that going to affect the economy? First of all, I think it's great. Remember, in Florida, let's take all the employers with less than 100 employees. They create 60% of all net new jobs in this state. And remember, from 2015 till early 2020, Florida was creating more than 1 out of every 11 jobs in this country. So we owe it to small businesses. That's where our new job growth is coming from. It's not coming from the big businesses. It's awesome that they're starting businesses now. Some of them just said, hey, I'm tired of doing what I'm doing. I was a nurse. I was no matter what you were, it's been a great opportunity for people to start businesses. And I tell people, including my grad students, and they hate this, the academics that I deal with as well hate me telling the grad students this. I say, okay, you're about to get a master's in economics. I said, you know what you should have done to improve your probability of becoming a millionaire? And they say, no, what was it? And I say, you should have started your own business. That's the really true path to wealth, is it not? Freedom, wealth, all those things, your probability, and you can hate me if you want to for saying this. I teach college kids. A lot of the kids that went to college and took on a bunch of debt would have been better off opening up a business. Hey, you don't have the debt. And then you learn about business, you learn what you're good at very quickly. It's a brutal market out there, right? If you're good, then your path to wealth creation for yourself and your family and the next generations is a lot higher than somebody who goes to college and just then you become risk averse, don't you? It's like, well, hey, I can make this amount. I've got a college degree. I can make this amount. Why would I start a business? Yeah, I might make a lot of money, but I'm comfortable. I buy a new car, I get married, I have a kid, those kind of things happen. And so you're really closing off your opportunity for wealth, but it's great for the economy. It makes it more dynamic. Remember how dependent we were on leisure and hospitality jobs here in this state? That about 90% of what we have to make up out of 111,000 jobs is leisure and hospitality jobs. So diversifies the economy, provides a lot of opportunity, for them and their families, plus the people that work for them. I wish we could talk half of the kids that are going to college into starting their own business or going out and get some experience before they go to college and seeing a little more of the world before they make that decision and take on a whole bunch of debt. But great question. And I hear that's the last one. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Parish. I could listen to you talk for another hour. Can you stick around for a few minutes? I know there's probably have a few additional questions. Thank you for that program. All right, I'd like to thank our guests and visiting Rotarians, Eric, Linda, and Jack. Thanks for visiting from Indiana. And next week's program, Keith Cash, the story behind the scratch-off lottery ticket, otherwise known as the redneck retirement plan. So, okay. Why did Beethoven get rid of all of his chickens? All they talked about was Bach, Bach, Bach. We are adjourned.